Welcome back to World War III with Prof Jiang Xueqin. Before I begin, do me a favor. If you value thoughtful analysis and not just loud headlines, like the video, leave a comment, and subscribe. It helps keep this work alive. In this episode, I want to talk about a dramatic and dangerous moment in Latin America. The kidnapping of Venezuela's president, the destruction of national symbols, and what all of this reveals about an empire that may be entering decline. I look at geopolitics through game theory and historical patterns. What you are about to hear is my interpretation of incentives and behavior. It is not the only way to see events, but it is a way that helps explain why states sometimes act in ways that seem reckless or strange. Let me begin with what happened. In my understanding, United States Special Forces carried out a surprise strike in Caracas. I picture Chinook helicopters bringing in Delta Force teams. They hit the security detail around President Maduro, killed members of his Cuban security team, and extracted him to New York, where he is displayed to the public as a captured enemy. This was paired with something else: the destruction of the mausoleum of Hugo Chavez. For millions of Venezuelans, that building is not just a structure, it represents an entire political movement that claimed to defend the poor and the marginalized. When I look at this, I do not see only a military operation. I see ritual humiliation. It reminds me of ancient Rome when defeated kings were paraded through the streets so the empire could show the world who was in charge. In that sense, Maduro becomes more than a man. He becomes a symbol of the Venezuelan state itself. So when you kidnap him like that, and when you destroy the monument of Chavez, you are telling the Venezuelan people your sovereignty is conditional. Your symbols are disposable. Your future is decided somewhere else. Now, the obvious question is this: why take such a risky step? Many people assume the answer is easy. Venezuela has enormous oil reserves, so the United States must want to steal the oil. I see something different. I do not think Washington plans to spend tens of billions rebuilding Venezuela's energy infrastructure so it can run the oil industry directly. That would be slow, expensive, and politically dangerous. Instead, I think the real goal is narrower. It is about China. The United States sees China as its main strategic rival. To preserve the power of the US dollar, it needs control over key resources, especially oil and critical minerals in the Western Hemisphere. Latin America holds oil, silver, copper, lithium, and other materials that drive modern industries like electric vehicles and artificial intelligence. China has been building relationships there for years. From Beijing's point of view, this looks like normal trade. From Washington's point of view, it looks like a rival entering what has long been seen as America's backyard. So the message behind the kidnapping and the destruction of symbols becomes clear. This hemisphere belongs to us. The agreements exist only with our permission. China enters here only on our terms. Is that effective strategy or reckless theater? That is the real debate. Let me pause here for a moment. If you are still with me, hit the like button and share this video with someone who cares about global politics. And tell me your thoughts in the comments. I read them. Now, here's what worries me. A strong, confident empire usually prefers subtle tools: covert pressure, financial leverage, quiet deals with local elites. You influence, you bribe, you infiltrate. You do not stage public humiliation unless something deeper is happening. What I see in Venezuela looks different. It looks like short-term spectacle replacing careful strategy. There was another path. Washington could have worked behind the scenes, offered economic guarantees to Venezuelan elites, secured favorable oil deals, and allowed Chinese companies limited access under American supervision. Instead, we have a public raid and national humiliation, angry crowds, a humiliated nation, and a loud message across Latin America. If they can do this to Caracas, they can do it to us. This does not build trust. It creates fear. Countries like Mexico, Colombia, and Brazil already remember decades of coups, covert operations, and outside interference. A kidnapping of a sitting president only confirms their suspicion that sovereignty in this region is conditional. And fear pushes countries together. Even governments that dislike Maduro or oppose his policies will feel pressure to condemn what happened. Because if they approve when their neighbor is violated, they are next in line. There is also the global image to consider. For years, the United States presented itself as the defender of law, democracy, and a rules-based order. Here, in my view, that mask falls away. Kidnapping a leader, destroying a national monument, treating the region like open colonial property. This is how many in the global South will read the message. Not as strength, but as insecurity wrapped in violence. Not as order, but as domination. And when people see that, they do not forget. So what does Venezuela reveal? First, it shows a willingness to act openly imperial in the Western Hemisphere. Second, it suggests a leadership more interested in dramatic television moments than careful long-term planning. Third, it may push Latin American states into greater unity against Washington, even when they disagree with one another. Is every detail of this analysis perfect? No. But from a game theory perspective, the incentives and reactions form a troubling pattern. And here is where I want to leave this episode. Venezuela may not be the final story, so it may be the opening act. In the next episode, I will ask a harder question. How could this incident connect to something larger? So it's not only regional anger, but a path that brings us closer to a much wider conflict. Thank you for watching. If you find this work valuable, subscribe, share the series, and leave your thoughts below. Understanding is our aim, not fear.